How are you guys doing today? All right, who's going to take advantage of the garden today and go out there and find some tulips? Great. Take some photos and post them if you're on social media. We have a few people coming in, and so we are going to start a little slow because, are you ready, Club Parkinson's? We're going to have a little demo. All right. Pole walking is something you can do every month here at Botanica, thanks to the nonprofit Club Parkinson's. They teach urban pole walking, and we're going to have Shanna, one of the co-founders, tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll get started.
Good morning. Wow, are we glad that it is not sleeting this morning? So I was curious yesterday if we were going to have to put ski tips on the end of these to show you today, but it's a beautiful Kansas day, and my name is Shanna Gatchett. This is Connie Urbanic. We are co-founders of Club Parkinson's, and we have started Nordic Walking Wichita. It is a walking fitness exercise class with Nordic walking poles, and so we're going to do a very brief demonstration today. After our presentation at 11:45, we have a training class that's offered. It's $25 for the training class. We have poles that you can use as demo poles to practice with. We also have poles for sale. We will go through more of those details when we train you. But just to give you a little bit of insight on this, the Nordic walking poles, actually, this is where you jump in and you do a great job.
She's putting me on the spot. Actually, the Nordic walking poles it's just a wonderful exercise for anybody. Of course, from Club Parkinson's, we use it for the purpose of teaching people with Parkinson's a lot of different techniques and tools that they can use. But also it's wonderful for the general population. Katherine Ambrose actually did a series for us on PBS, and so we actually included that in the flyer. I think you guys would have all received that if you've got the invitation to come here, via email. So that would be a great place to watch it and see all the different things and benefits that it's good for. And I don't want to take a lot of time because I know she's in a hurry, but we will explain that if you take the class.
Thank you. So, do we have some first-timers here today? First time to visit. Welcome, welcome. We always have somebody that's visiting for the first time. Who's been coming since the very beginning? Our models are here. So the first two people to walk into an Empowered Senior Seminar were these two ladies. And we took a really nice photo, and we're not compensating them. We are a nonprofit now. But you'll see their photo all the time because I like it so much. And I'm so proud that you were our first ones here and that you're coming. Who's here for the particular topic, decluttering and downsizing? What do you want to learn today? We're gonna start with the Q&A. All right, what do you want to learn today? Who wants to tell me? Raise your hand. Anything in particular? Okay.
How to live in a smaller space.
How to live in a smaller space. Good one. How to get started. Okay. I'm really glad that those are the things that you're thinking, because if you're thinking we're going to tell you how to clean out a junk drawer, you could ask and we'll answer, but it's really the higher level task that we're talking about. This is a very challenging, overwhelming, mature life task that we're going to be addressing today. Anything in particular? Anything else that you're here to learn about? What is decluttering? What does decluttering mean to you? Getting rid of your junk, getting rid of your stuff. Detaching from the emotions that you put to it and the sentiment. I think that's what makes this so hard. Not for everybody, because I know some people, not me, but some people are really good at getting rid of stuff anyway. I've asked some of my real estate clients over the years, like, how are you so good at minimizing and not hanging on to extra stuff? Do you ever regret throwing something out? And a real estate client said, yes, actually I do, but it's not worth hanging on to it. I thought that's interesting. Who's somebody like me that hangs on to stuff? Okay. So I will not be coming to help you declutter or downsize. I would just be a big whole mess. We got people for that. On our brochure that we have, we even talk about, you've got people. So there's people in this city that can help you. And we're going to meet some people from other cities that are going to share their expertise, because this is a universal issue, of course. And we're going to ask you to ask some questions. So we have a couple prizes at the end for the most intriguing, helpful questions, because I'll tell you what happens every single seminar. After the seminar, people will come up and ask questions, or they'll tell a story. And I think, oh, I wish she would have said that on the microphone, because it would help other people. If you're thinking it, somebody else is thinking it. And if you verbalize it, it will help other people. Randy, let's go to, I want to thank our sponsors, Mariner Wealth Advisors, Galen McGregor. She'll be up on the panel today. And now, what would a financial wealth advisor person be talking about decluttering and downsizing? We're going to find out. Blue Stem Communities, I don't think they're in the room today. Unbelievable opportunities in Heston and Newton and the surrounding areas in the Blue Stem communities. They have everything that you might want in senior living if you want to live that direction. And they have Hutchinson Adult Care, which is really phenomenal. Comfort and Love Senior Care Homes, thank you for being here. She took our photos last month while our photographer was on a movie set. Delno, welcome back. Not shooting a movie today? Okay. Well, sometime we're going to have you talk about your career. I think that would be very interesting. American Senior Benefits, they have been sponsors of the television show on Channel 8 since the very beginning. And Terry Brooks, could you stand, Terry Brooks? Terry Brooks is the Director of Development at PBS. We thank you so much for offering our topics on public television. And Mindy East, could you stand? So Mindy East is the host of Ageless Enthusiasm, a show in development that is an offshoot of what we're doing in this room. So these seminars helped inspire the television program Empowering Seniors and Ageless Enthusiasm. So thanks for being here, ladies. All right, Randy, let's hit next. I wonder, do we have some veterans in the room? I know we do. Any veterans that would like to come up front, or at least stand and be recognized. Thank you for your service. And if the veterans would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we would be honored. Everyone, please stand. Thank you. My husband, Randy Ambrose, in the back, he and I have been realtors in the local area. We founded this program, and he carries in the chairs, sets up the tables, and today he's the clicker. Randy, thank you for your service. What? Oh, good. Where's Oxford Villa? Oh, well, welcome. We're glad to have you. If you have materials, you're welcome to put them out, too. We're happy to have you here, and thanks for bringing people. And my mother brought people. Good job, Mom. All right, next, please. I'm Katherine Ambrose. I'm a longtime realtor. I've been a realtor since I was 21 years of age. Before that, I was in housing. I've been in housing all my life. And when it comes to what to do with your house as you age, there's so much to it, whether you want to age in place or whether you're thinking about making a move. And everyone is going to have to address what to do with the extra stuff at some point, and so that's why we're here. Next. All right, stages of readiness. We talk about this a lot, that it's normal when you're in the decision-making process to go through this. And we're relating it here to a downsizing move or even decluttering. First might be denial. And you might bounce back and forth through some of the stuff. At some point, you might be thinking, I don't need to get rid of things. I don't need to make a move. And then your mind goes back and forth. You have like an internal conflict. And if you're married, there might be a conflict between the husband and wife. So we have a lot of people that will say, I'm really doing taking care of my stuff, but my husband's keeping too much. And usually that's that's not always the case. So it's really interesting. It's a real challenging process to go through. What about conflict with adult children that might think that, Mom, when are you going to clean this up? Or, there can be all different kinds of scenarios as far as that goes. Or conflict as to whether they want the china or want certain things that we might think they should want. So we're going to talk about that today. But denial as the beginning of making change. Denial and then switching to thinking, where you're kind of contemplating, maybe I need to do something. And you're gathering information at that point, and you begin planning and preparing and take action. Randy, next. I'm not ready yet, I think, is a really important thing. How often does that come across your mind, I'm not ready yet? Or you hear your friends say, I'm not ready yet. Okay. Randy, can you, next? He's really good at real estate. Randy's not ready yet. So on the thinking stage, thinking can be 1 to 10 years. This is scientifically proven to be the case. And we're a PhD-led program. Dr. Nikki Buckaloo, she was on 2 of the television episodes, and this comes from some of her research. And what can spur somebody from thinking into planning very quickly? An illness, an accident, death, what? Family pressure, okay. Well, while they're working on that, let's think about, one of the screens are gonna pop up, I hope. I was thinking about this word downsize, here, thank you, downsizing. That's maybe not the most positive word. It is a clear word, and that's why we use it, is because I think people know what downsizing means. And if you try to make it right sizing or something else, life sizing, it might be a little harder to understand, a little less clear. But it also can feel like the stripping away. It can be a painful process. And so I was thinking about some of these D words: denial, decluttering, dementia, dismantling, damage, deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance is a really big issue where people think, oh, I've got all these things that need to be done at my home. I have the siding issue. I have a tree that needs to be removed. I've got windows to be replaced. I need to caulk around the bathtub. I need to do all of these things. And this puts a lot of pressure on people. And so I would say, get an in-home consultation to discuss these things, and you might find out that what you're worried about isn't that worrisome, especially in the real estate market that we're in today. But there's a lot that can be gained by gathering information and exploring that a little bit. There can be a lot of dread and dissatisfaction or unhappiness in going through a process. But what usually happens as a person goes through this process, if it's something that they decided on their own to do, and once they get it done, how are you two feeling today? You're getting ready to make a move, and you're going to do the downsizing process, but you found your place, and so you were telling me today you're pretty elated and excited, but scared, overwhelmed. And so daunted, that's a good D word. So anyway, this was just something I was thinking about the other day, and I took a lot of yoga training, and in yoga, when you're learning to become an instructor, you know, some of the things are kind of challenging. And a book that we read talked about don't try hard, try easy. It's something to just kind of change your mindset, like if you're trying to balance on one leg, and if you just think about making it easy rather than how hard it is, that your body can just react that way. Kind of an interesting thought. So next slide. So I thought about what can we do to move into ease? And here's some D words that are more positive: decisive, delighted, devoted, destined. And then I started thinking about more E words: excited, energized, and making things simple by design, planning your life by design, your future by design, rather than default. Next. I'm reading a book called The Fragile Years, and I've been doing more community tours, visited KMH, I visited Lake Point Nursing Home, I visited some different places, and some of the people that I've met in the hallways at some of the nursing homes, they're not in the physical condition that we're in here. And I started thinking about how relevant this book is, and that what we're doing is we're preparing for things that might happen later on. And so that's why I put goal number 1 is to prepare for fragile years. Goal number 2 is creating a legacy by design. Your what-to-do list, mess, blessings. What will you be leaving behind for others to do if you don't take care of it? Do you want to leave behind messes or blessings? Because one of the best blessings that you can give your children or your spouse is to take care of things so they don't have to do that all by themselves. Right, Mom? My dad collected a lot of stuff because he was going to run an antique booth when he was older. When he was older, he didn't feel like doing that. So guess who had to take care of all that stuff? And she's still working on it. But moving from Chicago to Wichita, that helps you get rid of a lot of stuff in a hurry. And I relate it to kind of having a baby. Like maybe the pregnancy wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, or the birth plan, you know, the fancy birth plan that some mothers like to have. The birth plan wasn't exactly the way they planned it, but hopefully in the end it all turned out really good, and that you can focus on the good and not what you would maybe do differently. So it's more about just getting to where you need to be, getting it done. Next. So I was just thinking about what are you creating? And these are kind of for me. I wanted to just make sure I mention this. What's your plan? How are you going to tackle things? How are you going to take action? I want to talk about SMART goals. Pop quiz, you guys. We're going to talk about SMART goals. We're going to see what you remember about SMART goals. What does ready look like? Because we hear that a lot. I'm just not ready yet. And what happens if you keep saying that and putting it off? What are some of the things that can happen if you don't decide ready might be sooner rather than later? What systems, people, and tools are available to accomplish your task? Systems, people, and tools, that is leverage. Who's used leverage before? Who hired somebody to teach your child to drive? A few people. Maybe most of you taught them yourself. Did you teach them how to play guitar or piano? Or did you hire somebody? Did you teach somebody to teach them how to dance? Or pay for coaching and write checks for uniforms and things like that? There's times in your life where you've used leverage and you've gotten help from other people, and that's what we suggest for downsizing and decluttering, if that would help you accomplish your goal and help you leave blessings for spouse or children. So that's just kind of the ground, just the kind of the mindset I'm coming from in presenting this topic today. And we have some very special guests. Next, please. Please welcome our panel. Come on up. We have Jan Brito from Washington, D.C. Come on up. She's a certified senior downsizing coach. And these chairs, you can even just kind of lean on them, but I was trying to get you up high where they can see you a little bit since we don't have a stage. And Stacy and Willy Nelson from Kansas City or Lee Summit, Missouri. Thank you for traveling here to be on the seminar. and we're going to film an episode later today. We have a token local. We normally have local experts here, but we have these experts that have traveled to be here today and meet you and share their knowledge, and we thank you for that. But we do have a local today, and that's Galen McGregor. Her first time here. She's with Mariner Wealth Advisors. And I've met with a few wealth advisors, financial planners. I'm on the Wichita State Planning Committee. I've met a lot of people, but this is the first person that I've met in your industry that really had something new to share that's relevant today. And so we're going to see if we can get your mind going a little bit deeper when it comes to this process. Okay, so we're going to have a candid conversation about the truths of decluttering and downsizing. If there's something specific that you want to know, please ask it. There are people watching the live stream, and they'll be watching the recording later. And you're helping get other people's questions asked when you ask a question. So if there's something specific, please ask it. We are going to tell you some stories today and kind of talk at a high level to help that mindset to help spur people into action and to get you thinking a little bit deeper about things. And then we can dig into some of the practicalities of it. But please do ask questions if you have them. So Jan, we're going to start with you. I'm just going to have each of you take the mic for a moment if you'll introduce yourself and tell them something that you want to leave with them. Today, we just want to give them the very best information you can possibly provide. By the way, we don't sell here. We were talking about pole walking, and it's $25 for a class, and you can buy poles. We're not really trying to sell you that. We're trying to encourage physical activity, encourage using the gardens, and it's up to you if you do those things. But no one in this room is here to sell. They're here to support education. Believe me, they don't convert business out of the seminar. If they did, we would have professionals lined up all the way around the room, and it would make this a lot easier to pay for. They're here because they have a heart for you, and they want to share, and they want to add something to the community. Jan?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm so happy to be here. It's my first time to Kansas. I didn't know it was so flat. You can see forever. It's great. So I'm from D.C. I did come a long way to be here, but Catherine's worth it, and as are the other panelists here. In terms of downsizing, I have a little short story to share with you. Katherine talked about leveraging resources, right? And if you've been to some of her other seminars, you've probably heard of move managers. Does everybody know what a move manager does? Anybody? So a move manager is someone you can hire when you're thinking of downsizing, whether or not you're going to move. They can come in and help you go through the process of sorting, identifying what you want to keep, what you want to donate, even helping you pack things that you're going to give away. And the story I'm about to tell is, it will illustrate the importance of leveraging those resources. We had a client who was getting ready to move as part of her downsizing, and we got her a move manager to help with all the processes I just described. Well, her daughter, who's like the fixer, she's going to swoop in and take care of mom and be in charge of everything. And, you know, of course, mom didn't want to tell her not to come, but she already had everything under control. So the daughter comes in her jeans and her sweatshirt. She's ready to get down on the floor and pack boxes and everything. And she gets there, and move manager's there, and mom says, "It's all taken care of. Let's go to lunch." So they went out, had a nice lunch, were able to bond a little more, did a little shopping for the new place, and came back home, and everything was gone, packed up. Came back the next day to her new place. The pictures were hung, the beds were made. Again, they went out to lunch and had a great time, and there was no stress between them. So it's a really great concept.
And there was no stress between them. Can you imagine stress between a mother and daughter? Could be stressful. And so having a neutral third party that has a lot of experience with decluttering and downsizing and packing and unpacking can remove a lot of stress. So if daughter comes into town or devotes her weekend or takes a day off to help with mom and dad's move, it's a lot easier if you've got people. Stacy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. We are really glad. Willy and I are from the Kansas City area, recently moved to Peculiar, so we our peculiarites. But it's interesting. I was going to say something different, but your story reminded me of my own mother's situation. My folks had a large home, like probably a lot of you. It's more than you need right now. And I was that daughter saying, it's time to move. The land is too much. You're not using the pool. It's time to move. And my father liked being in his home, but the D word, deferred maintenance, was becoming an issue. My dad, the engineer who could fix anything the whole time I grew up, was now not fixing things. And so that was hard for the daughter to watch. So one year, for Mother's Day, I gave my mother a few hours of the downsizing coach. And I said, and I'll come too. And my mom and my dad watched as they were able to participate with the coach. They chose to stay. And my conservative father, after that, said, we'll hire more hours. This was so worth it. They didn't end up moving for a while. The community that they chose was being built. So it took a long time to get the 50-unit building built. And so they had more time in their home. But getting started, just getting started, and showing them it's not that bad was a wonderful opportunity for my folks.
Thank you. It's so emotional. It's so emotional. And the word everyone uses is overwhelming, and it's for a reason. Why did we get all this stuff? I don't know. Okay, Willy.
So I'm going to keep going with that story. So I started actually in real estate 8 years ago, and it was right around that same time. And I can remember a lot of the emotion around that, around the new community and what that was going to be like. And just, I think the key, and I'm really glad you are here, that you've leaned in, it's just getting started. My father-in-law was determined to stay in his home. He had a brother that was 5 years older, and he told him to stay in the home as long as he could. And so he was determined to do that. And we had I remember at Christmas, Stacy and I had been married a couple of years at that point, and the son-in-laws and son, we were all there in our home, and we were going to renovate our basement so there could be a basement apartment for Stacy's parents. That was the fastest we saw their parents move and prepare for a community. He did, and we just thought we were trying to be helpful. We thought, if they could move into our house, they would be with us. That multi-generational living, we thought that would be a really great thing. And I am not kidding. It took him exactly 1 month, and he had put a deposit down on a community. So just know that it happens everywhere. But we're really glad you're here because I really think this is a great first step. Get that education, hear from others that are going through the same experiences that you are, and with the children trying to do the same things, right? Trying to be helpful.
You mentioned first step, so this is a good first step, and we can go right from this to action in helping you meet with the different professionals that you might need for whatever it is you're working on mature life tasks. When it comes to decluttering and downsizing, a second step that you can take is to join the Downsizers Club. I have a book up here and a book out back that is our prototype, our beginning. Got our first session. You haven't missed anything because we have a handful of people signed up, and every single one of them couldn't come to the first session. Yeah. So we are going to launch it next month. It's the first Tuesday of every month at the brand new PBS Kansas headquarters at K96 and Rock Road. So if you'd like information on this, this is how to really break things down. If you're not making a move right away, but you want to start planning and getting some things accomplished and helping your mindset and also having practical things to do, we're teaching this course. It's a lot different from the seminar because it's going to be just a handful or two of people in each Downsizers Club. We're starting with this one. And Galen is going to be one of our co-facilitators. So next on the slide, Galen McGregor. So part of this whole downsizing thing is way beyond just your house and the stuff in it. It's like, where am I going to move? We had a lady that we moved last year, and we knew she was going to move for a very long time. She's going to move to California, going to move to California, going to move to California. And she went and stayed with her daughter in California to kind of prepare. COVID happened. She got stuck there for a while. And we were talking to her about helping her long distance and, you know, trying to figure out the logistics. And one day she called. I just talked to her a week before, and she called. She said, well, I'm moving. And I said, great, let's get going on it. She said, I'm moving to Twin Lakes Apartments. What? All this time, she was going to move to California, but she decided that as much as she loves her daughter was too busy and that she didn't like where she was, and her friends are here. Her church is here, and she lived in Riverside in a really cute bungalow, so she kind of stayed in the same area, moved into Twin Lakes, where she had a lot of friends. And I thought it was such a cool story. We did a mother-daughter episode featuring her and stories about her daughter. Her daughter was so grateful that we were able to help her. And we also had a mother and daughter from Oxford Villa. I see Kelsey's here from Oxford Villa. And so we talked about mothers and daughters working together, even long distance, to accomplish a move, and just kind of the process. And I can't remember in that episode how many years she said she'd been thinking about downsizing. It might have been like 12 years. It was a very long time. And Dr. Nikki Buckaloo said it's because she didn't have the resources. She didn't have you. She didn't know about you and what you could do, and that's why she was stuck for so long. So we want to help people get unstuck, or at least have a plan B. So if something does happen, that an illness, a death, different things that we talked about, if something does happen, you already have a plan. You should also have a plan for other things, like if you have an injury and you are asked about a rehab hospital, rather than going where the hospital wants to send you, it would be better if you knew in advance what rehab hospital you prefer, rather than just be told. Because most people will do what they're told because they think that's what they have to do. And we are all about empowerment. We want to empower you so you know what your real choices are, and that you can speak up and let your choices be known. That's something else we're going to cover in Downsizers Club, is all of those details, so you can kind of be pre-booked in your mind, like where you're going to go if you need to when things arise. So Galen, why is a wealth advisor here to talk about downsizing? Could you hit the next slide too?
I would tell you that what we see in our industry, in the financial industry, is a lot of questions about downsizing start with money. And I always think of money as just a tool. So a little bit of what I'd encourage you to think about. I always say in your house, your kids and your friends, they all see your stuff, right? They can see that we need to clean this out. They can see that this maintenance hasn't been done. But when it comes to financial resources, how many of us get out our bank statements and our investment statements with our kids and say, hey, look here, let's talk about this? None of us do. We were all taught that that was a very private conversation, and a lot of times it's scary because you don't know how to start. So I would say when we talk about downsizing, I always think about consolidation is maybe a word we use in our industry. How do you consolidate it so instead of giving 20 statements a month and you've got investments and accounts all over, that you're getting a couple every month? It's easier to manage. And the last thing I would say is think about, for those of you who are married and or have children, the best gift you can give your loved ones is to make decisions together. What I see when I meet with people is my spouse or my mom or my parent, I didn't really know what they wanted. And all of a sudden they're feeling the burden of having to make decisions that they wish that you would have made because they feel like they're carrying out your wishes. And so when I think about downsizing and consolidation, Know that we at Mariner Wealth and for myself, when I meet with people, we start with what's the sustainability? What do you need to have to accomplish the goals that Katherine just talked about? So if someone wanted to go to California or wanted to be at Twin Lakes, what kind of financial resources do you need to have? And once you determine that, to me, that's freeing that you can make the next decision. And so sometimes it's not wanting to talk about the financial resources or lack thereof. And we cover everything from medical insurance to investments to checking accounts, everything in between. The land, when you talk about changing residences, and or a lot of people in this part of the country have inherited farmland, or it's a family farm, and what do we do with it? And I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Those are all things that are kind of hard to unpack, and what we try to do is think through what's good for you, what's good for your loved ones. How do we take that resource and make it a resource that you can utilize each and every day, but also make it transfer to your loved ones? And Katherine hit on something that I thought was so interesting. What I've seen, I've been in this industry 35 years, is a lot of families that used to be that mom and dad lived 3 blocks down from their kids and then their grandkids. And in today's society, kids are scattering everywhere. We have a lot of seniors who don't have any family around, and that scares them of, to her point, do I live at Twin Lakes where my friends in my church are, or do I move to California? And so what we see with kids scattering, you need to make sure that you have someone checking in on you every day, and also that the resources behind you will carry you through the end. So with that.
And so I'm going to give you a big one right now, big tip right now. This is worth writing down. It's very hard to downsize if you don't know where you're going. And so you want to figure out your plan and where you're going to go, because it's hard to declutter and let art go, let pieces of furniture go, unless you know exactly what size of a place you're moving into. And you might have in your mind that you're going to get a 3-bedroom somewhere. That might be about impossible. You might have in your mind a 2-bedroom, but what is the floor plan? Because different square footage has different opportunities or restrictions, but also how the floor plan is laid out. And so a move manager, we measure the actual place that you're moving into, the walls, the doors, the windows, and we put it on a computer drawing so that you can figure everything out exactly the way you want it to be. Now you can start making decisions. Makes it a lot easier. It's hard to make a decision if you don't have all of the information gathered. All right, so I've got a question. Passion assets, what is that?
I describe passion assets of all those things that you own or have that has emotion attached. So it might be a piece of art, and the piece of art may have been made by your children at school. It's not necessarily the most expensive piece of art, but it's something that has emotional attachment. Other assets would be, other passion assets would be guns, jewelry, coins. I think about the veterans that we honored here earlier today. I mean, you think about the medals that you may have been awarded, your service uniform. Those are all things that are passion assets. And so there are things that have sentimental value, and then there are things that have financial value. And what we see a lot of times is people say, well, I had that when I was 25, it's not really worth anything. What we really try to do is there's nothing worse for me than to go to an estate sale and see something that is marked for $20 that I think is worth $2,500. And so what you really want to do is make sure to engage Katherine, or there's other firms, Leslie Hinman, Sotheby's. I mean, some of these pieces that you've held on to that we call vintage are really worth a lot of financial dollars as well. But the passion assets, what I see happen, and I always say the stories that relate to you mean the most. My father-in-law had a 50-cent piece with a hole, with a drill hole in it, and it's what he used for his keychain every day. I will tell you, he promised it to all 3 of his sons, one of them being my husband. The 3 sons looked at each other and they said, well, who's going to get that key ring of Dad's? It's what meant the most out of everything that was in the house. So I always say things like that, write it down, but those passion assets will mean a lot to your loved ones, both financially as well as emotionally.
Thank you. We went to dinner with our out-of-town guests last night, and Bretta, who's joined our team, Empowered Senior, Bretta Stark, go ahead and stand. She came to our Mitzi Beach event that we did last month. We did Essential Reasons to Downsize Now special event. Who was at that event? So we met Galen there, we met Bretta there, and we had 84 people there, I think. And so Bretta is going to join our team because she understands the value of what we're doing. And so thank you, Bretta. But last night she said there's 5 kids in her family, and they probably want some of the same stuff. And it gets very confusing later on. I bet you can relate to that. So tell us about some ways that people can cope with how to pass things on to other people, maybe so they can see them enjoy it, and the things that go wrong.
I could tell you lots and lots of stories. So what I would tell you is whatever, make sure that your wishes are clear. One of the stories is Stacy's parents. We'll go back to her parents before they moved into the new community. We told them that it was really important to have a day where you invite the family and have them pick the things that they want. Because there's nothing worse, I think, than you have all this wonderful stuff and your kids and grandkids don't really want it. But there's a lot of things that they might really want. And so we had them actually put their name under or on that item before the move. We hear often, we don't want to deal with it, so the kids will deal with it when we're gone. Don't do that to them. I have seen relationships destroyed. We have really good friends of ours. Actually, they live here in Wichita. And we, every year, get together. It's actually one of Stacy's classmates. And the wife, she's got 3 sisters. Yes, there's 4 total? No, 2 sisters. So 3. 3 total. And they are just a really good family. And mom and dad have a lot of acreage, and they have stuff. And so she came to me, and we had a meeting, and we talked about what that might be like. And I said, well, it's really important that you have those conversations early on, because there's going to be hurt feelings later if you don't. And she said, oh, our family, we all just love each other. And I said, yes, and I want to keep it that way. So she went to Colorado, and they had the family meeting. How many of you have had a family meeting yet? A few. Okay. So they had the family meeting. And the follow-up meeting that we had after the family meeting was, I'm so glad you had this conversation, because there was a lot of emotion. They didn't agree on anything. It was really important that the parents, they're the parents, right? This is what your wishes are really important. So make sure that whatever your wishes are, that you make it clear to your kids what those wishes are. And so anyway, but all of that happened prior to mom and dad passing, and they're still in good health, but those are having conversations early on. So that's one of the things. So what I would tell you is make sure to have the family meeting. And I can tell you I've done quite a few Downsizing Made Easy courses. And the last one I had, when I talked about having the family meeting, I got a lot of really grumpy faces in the audience. And I remember being shocked by it. But I really think it's important that you have those conversations with the kids. We have been invited to Thanksgiving dinners. We had a couple of years, probably 3-4 years ago, we got invited to a Thanksgiving dinner, because one of the kids was a real estate agent, one of the kids was an engineer, and then there were 2 daughters, and one daughter thought she was in charge of everything, and so we had the family meeting. And mom and dad were not ready to move. One was, I believe, at that time in their late 80s. Dad was in his early 90s, and the kids were like, it's time to make the move, it's time to make the move, and they were walking stairs every day, and so the kids were really concerned about it. And then they made the choice where they were going to move. And I really think that the husband he probably wanted to make sure they got moved before something did happen. And sadly, they moved into that community, and the very first night, Mom ended up in the hospital. Dad had a heart attack and passed. And Mom ultimately came back to the community and had a wonderful time at that community. In fact, she became one of Stacy's mom's best friends. And so they made that move, but that all started from a Thanksgiving dinner that we got invited to have the hard conversation. And so I just think that when it's important to have it.
And going with that, the family that lives here by Wichita, one of the things that can happen, it was a large farm. Grandson is farming part of the farm. So the amount that we pay, all those kind of things can be worked out in advance. I think a phrase that Katherine used earlier that I totally believe in is, do you want to design your life, or do you want to have a default? You know, I tell our clients so many times, the earlier we start, the more choices that you have. Do you want choices? And it's like Katherine said, knowing where you're going to go. We have a lot of clients that just can't even imagine leaving. It seems so overwhelming. But once we figure out where they want to go, then it's so much easier. They can immediately start thinking of, well, this will fit here and this will fit here, and I'll be close to this grocery store. But until you start the process, you just have to start the process. You know, like this morning, I had an email. I searched for properties for my clients, and I had one particular lady who, it was the same thing. We were there Thanksgiving weekend, not Thanksgiving dinner, but all the kids were in town, so we met with this family and explained all the situation. And one of the sons, who is in property management, he doesn't do senior type moves like we do. And I mean, he's wonderful at what he does. I went to the same high school with him. I understand his thoughts on it, but he's not thinking about it from his mother's perspective. She's in a neighborhood where some things have happened that it's not really safe for her, but he's comfortable going back to her home when he wants to come home. He doesn't think she needs to move. So that was a hard situation. But today I got an email for the one community she said she wants to go to. But because she hasn't started all the other stuff, we've met with her for what, 2 or 3 years by now, but she hasn't really started. So that home today will be sold. The one that she would love will be gone. If she had done her homework ahead, she came to our we do seminars just like this, and she would come regularly with one of her friends, and she would listen to all the things that we could do. But this morning, she found out she won't get that home because she hadn't made the first step.
Are we hearing a theme here? I think you might have to start with making a plan before you do anything else. And it's great that you're here, too, because you need to start early while you can still make the decision for yourself and not have a family member make it or a doctor make it. You know, start early when you are in total control and you can decide what you want to do. But in talking about the stuff and what to do with all the stuff, when you find out your kids don't want it, what do you do with it, right? And you might be thinking about having a yard sale. Well, they are very labor intensive, very stressful, and you will make far less than if you were to identify the things you don't want and perhaps consider having an estate liquidator sell it for you. It's going to take a lot of stress off of you, and you'd probably economically be better off using that route. So it's just a suggestion that came to mind when we were talking about all this stuff.
So what do people need to do to get on the list, of where they might like to go? Talk about how waiting lists work.
Yes, a lot of these communities do have waiting lists. So, and I know of one in my area where I had a focus group there with some of the current residents to get an idea of why they chose that community, what their thought process was. And one man told me that he put his name on the waiting list 10 years in advance because he knew that's where he wanted to go. So, you know, if you have a place that you like, go ahead and put your name on the waiting list because you never know how long it might take to have a space ready for you.
And some of the communities have clubs, like you have your Downsizers Club. I know in Oklahoma City, someone else who works with seniors, one of those communities has like monthly luncheons or dinners or activities. So while you're on the list, you could start getting to know your neighbors. That was a benefit that my folks' community had while the building was being built. They met every month for coffee or for lunch or whatever. So by the time those 50 members moved in, they already knew each other. They were already neighbors, you know, and that made it so much easier. But getting on the list is so important. While you're able to enjoy a day out and touring these different places, decide where you want to be. Pick your number 1, 2, and 3. And it may take a deposit, but you know, it's a savings account. That money's tucked away. If you decide not to go there, you can usually get the deposit back. But don't be afraid of the waiting list. Like, what if they call me and I'm not ready yet? Say I'm not ready yet, and they'll move to the next person. Stay on the list. You want to be on the list of where you want to be, not where you have to be. And if an emergency comes up and you have to decide today, then you didn't get to choose. But if you're already on the list, then you're ahead of the game.
Okay, so a waiting list. Kelsey, please stand up. This is very shy, Kelsey. Oh, she's not shy. Okay, so Oxford Villa is independent living.
Yes, and Oxford Grand. You know I transitioned.
I know you're at Oxford Grand. I do. But we are moving people into Oxford Villa sometimes on a pretty regular basis. Right now we're helping someone that wants the London. How many Londons are in the Oxford Villa? Pop quiz.
Pop quiz. I think there's 16 maybe total.
Wow.
We have 108 apartments, so we have 9 different apartment styles. So a London, if you're on that wait list, you have, what is that? Math is hard.
I don't
If you have 16 out of 108. It's not very many.
No. So the London is the biggest one. So we have someone that's been on the list for the London, and she,
I might be wrong.
I think maybe you don't have 16.
I have 8. I lied.
They don't have enough. I went and talked to the owner last week. I said, you need to build another building, please, and make more Londons. Yes. That's not going to happen, he told me. So there's a limited amount. So there's 10,000 people a day turning 65. They are your competition. If you want a London, there's a lot of other people that might like a London too, and the list for the London and some of the other floor plans can be quite long. So we're moving someone into a smaller floor plan because she wants to move into Oxford Villa so bad. She's had it. She's not going to wait anymore. So even though we don't like storage units, we're going to store some of her stuff so she can go in a smaller 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And when she makes it to the top of the list and moves into London, if she still decides to do that, then we can add more things to that larger apartment. So I just want to make sure that you heard Stacy, that just because you're on a list doesn't mean you are moving. You don't have to be ready to move, because every single month you call the waiting list, and what happens?
So we call them, and then they get that first right of refusal. So you'll tell them, okay, if you're not ready, then you get to stay at the top of the list. We'll go down to the next person, and we'll call you when the next one's available. So that happens quite often. I mean, we get people on the wait list years in advance because we don't know when the next one will come available. So I always say get on the wait list.
So don't be scared. That doesn't mean you have to move. Right. You just are moving farther up the list. So you could end up being number 1 on the list, and you say when you're ready. Mm-hmm. Or you can change your mind, do something different.
And I let people, sorry. Since we have so many floor plans at our community, I'll say, well, you can be on 3 different floor plans, and then I can call you when any of those come available. So it doesn't have to be just one.
So the important thing is to get out and look around. And there are social workers at the in-home care companies, home health companies, different places. Our team will help you look. Also, we would rather you just call us. We do not charge the community. Have we ever charged you for anybody?
They haven't charged me. I'm still waiting on the check, though, for Catherine to send me.
Okay. That's a new charge I wasn't aware of. We do not charge to help you find an apartment. Guess who charges? Who are places that charge? There's placement services and a place for mom. How much does a place for mom charge? They charge you. It's free. It's free. What do they charge you? At least the first month's rent. Sometimes more. It could be 110%. So if there's a list and somebody that is not going to create a bill because they walked in on their own or they walked in with us, versus somebody that there's going to be a $5,000 bill if they get the apartment instead of somebody else. Who do you think might get the apartment first? Not saying that anybody would do that, but what do you think makes sense? Somebody that wants to move in and the community doesn't have to pay $5,000, or somebody that wants to move in and just accepting them, it will cost the community an extra $5,000. Who do you think? Oh, truth. She likes the non-placement. They like the non-placement. So they would prefer not to pay a bill. So if you innocently go on a place for mom, guess what? You're on a list that's going to cost somebody money. So it might be free to you, but it's going to cost a lot of money, and it could affect where you are in the line. If we're being truthful. Thank you. We are being truthful. So, all right. And then we have Comfort and Love. They're out towards Andover, East Wichita, assisted living, right by Trinity Academy in Magdalen. And then the beautiful KMH, which is so fascinating. People are always interested. You have a variety of different places. And sometimes you might get lucky and the place you want might be available. And so you can go have a tour with Jamie, have a tour with Kelsey. There's wonderful, sweet people at all these places. I liked you instantly the moment I met you. They're great people. It's okay to go look. It's free to go look. Okay?
She asked me, how many times am I allowed to say I'm not ready? And I said, as many as you want, as a million times.
We'll keep calling you, she said. Okay. All right, let's talk about liquidation. Now, you mentioned a couple of names that might have gone over heads, but you really caught my attention because you said there are some clients that you have that they prefer not to do an estate sale locally. Why? And mention the auction houses that you were talking about.
I always think that the items that you've accumulated over your time are very private. I mean, there is emotion to all that stuff in our houses, right? And so confidentiality is something that we live by. And I have a lot of clients that say, I'd like to have an estate sale, but I don't want someone locally to do this for me. I'd like that to be done by someone else. So I would tell you, there's times when we've hired people from Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Dallas, other places, because I think you get a more, sometimes an objective value. Sometimes there are family names or there's things that people know about, and you sometimes don't get the full value of what your articles are actually worth. So as Katherine just said, Leslie Hindman is Hindman, is a firm out of Chicago. They're kind of a Midwestern Sotheby's, Heritage Group. All of those auction houses will actually take things that off-site and they'll put them in their catalogs when they're actually doing a show on something. So I'll give you an example of, for all of us Wichitans, that you'll say, wow, really? How many of you knew that Coleman lanterns, tents, all those types of things are very popular in Japan right now? So I will tell you, things that you think are worth $3 at the yard sale, if they go to the right place, will actually put in a catalog that will be shown around the world. It's a very different, I mean, they look for an audience that will actually get you the maximum value for things that you would like to dispose of. So to that end, on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this next week, I have someone in town from Leslie Hindman who's actually going to meet with a few clients that have coins and collectibles and jewelry from the early 1800s that, you know, there are maybe one or two of these things, and it's something that they want to dispose of, but they don't even know who to show it to in order to get a proper value or idea of, is it insured properly? How do we account for it? How do we title it? How do we make sure it's in your estate plan properly? So those are things that I always say, if you have something at home and you say, I wonder, and you always say, well, who do I go to for that? I always say all of us up here are just a link to get you to the right end person. We're not the expert in all things, but I always say we've got a great network of people that we can connect you with so that that you're being taken care of, because the word we use in our industry a lot that's important is fiduciary, someone that acts on your behalf so that you know that someone's not taking advantage of you.
That's a great point. That's one of my favorite words, fiduciary. And that's how we do move management, is that we are helping to make good decisions and help oversee everything. So, you know, helping you get the information you really need and the accountability that's needed to make sure that people take good care of you, and that you're paying what you should and not more than what you should. And again, we might not be the expert on every single thing, we for sure aren't, but we know where to find the expertise. Okay, Charles has a question, I'll come back. Willie, don't forget what you're gonna say. Okay.
I don't really have a question, but back to the waiting list. If you have a pet, you're also on a different tier. Even the size of the pet can be a difference for you. So you need to check on that too. We did.
So inside of this brochure is a photo of our move management team with the beautiful white golden retriever. Any community would have been lucky to have that dog Sadie there. That is the sweetest dog. But if they have a limit on size, they might have said no to Sadie. I think they were missing out, but we found Sadie at home. And there are many homes that will take pets. Oxford takes pets. KMH takes pets. A lot of them do. We are pet lovers, and so we want to help people keep their pets. And part of our move management and our downsizing plan also is for people, if something really unexpected should happen, what they want to have happen with their pets. And so we have one client where her attorney has instructions that if something happens to her, that he's to call Randy and I first. We're going to get the locks changed that day, and we're going to pick up the dog. We know the dog's name, what the dog eats, the vet information, and it's all squared away with the veterinarian and the attorney. And these are the kinds of plans that can be made in advance. And that way you have a plan for your pet. Sometimes we'll hear seniors say, well, I don't know at my age if I should get a puppy. Well, they're called pet companions for a reason. And we want the dog, the cat, to always have a wonderful life, so we want a plan in place. But I think anyone of any age could have a puppy, and that's my opinion. All right, Willie. Enlighten us.
So Katherine is your hub. We, in our world, we are the hubs. We have a Rolodex that we pull out, and we can guide you where you want to go. What I would tell you about liquidation is, for yourselves, make sure that you are in control of that. You know what you have in your home. You know the things that are very sentimental to you. Don't put it on your kids. They don't have the same heart for it. We had one that was a recent probate, and it was a blended family. There's lots of blended families today, and we had two sisters, one that represented mom and one that represented dad in the process, and everything, for the most part, was donated. They didn't want the stuff. One of the hardest things for Stacy and I, there was a room with all of the military honors, and not one kid or grandkid wanted it. Both parents had Alzheimer's, so that was probably one of the hardest experiences that we've gone through. Even the group that was hired to do all the liquidation, it was really hard for them too. So just make sure that that you, while you can take care of those things. Anyway, that was really hard. I wanted to share that because I think so often we think the kids are going to. And one daughter lived down here in Wichita, the other one lived in Kansas City, and they just didn't care. It was hard. It was really hard. But I really want you to hear that that's what Katherine does. Katherine is your hub to get you all of, and I don't know what for estate liquidators down here, what their cost, like minimum cost and that kind of stuff, but yeah. Okay. But Katherine.
What about kids that, there's some kids that care so much. It's like, well, mom wants me to have this. Mom wants me to have everything. And so some people end up with 2 and 3 households full of stuff. So then they have all of their stuff, their mom's stuff, their aunt's stuff, maybe some of their kids' stuff, you know what I mean. By the way, we have deadlines for kids. There's nothing like a moving date to get the kids to show up or to make a decision. You're like, you mean I saved all of this all this time and you don't want any of it? Nope, they don't want it. You know, or they'll finally come get the motorcycle out of the garage or the car out of the garage or the wedding dress or whatever it is. Truth or not truth?
Truth. Oh, when we recently downsized, after our daughter's 33, our son's almost 28, and we married 10 years ago, and so it was time for us to have a different house. We had that big house, and we didn't need all that space. And I told the kids, get it out of the house. You've had your own home for all this time. So, yes, we made that rule for them. But one thing I would like for you to think about is don't be sad or offended if your kids don't want your china hutch or your china or those things. I mean, this is the IKEA world. You know, our millennials sometimes don't want what we have. And what I've said to many clients is, you enjoyed it. This was something that you got to choose. You used it happily. Now pass it to someone else via a donation that will enjoy it. Let your kids pick the things they want to enjoy and let other people use the things that you're kind enough to now donate. You enjoyed it for all those years. Now let somebody else have that privilege, but don't be upset with your kids that they don't want that privilege. You know, they're picking out their own things. It's just different. Our kids didn't want our stuff. All the things I thought they'd take, they didn't. And so we just got rid of it. We gave it to somebody else, and now whoever that might be is happy, I hope.
I would just add that if you're wondering, well, who's going to want this? How do I know who to give it to or who to donate to? Katherine knows. She is your hub, like Willy said, so she knows who will take different items.
What's been your experience with estate liquidators? Good experiences?
Well, I've had good and bad. But there are some who will take items out of a home and put it in their shop and sell it on consignment. I personally like to find the ones who will come and stage the sale in the home. I think that's the most efficient way to do it. Of course, it's difficult if you're still living there, but yes, sir.
More recently, we don't know when we're going to move. We become number 1 on the list.
Oh, congratulations.
And the real estate people that we talked to are booked up to July and August.
Of course they are. That's why you need a hub, because the moving truck company has a schedule. The estate sale company has a schedule. They're looking to see what's convenient in their life. So that's why you need somebody that is helping direct all of those things. Sam and Donette have been helping us with move management since we started this at the end of 2018. How many times have we been able to get them to change their mind about doing an estate sale or find somebody else? It is one of the trickier things, but let us help you do that. Let us do the heavy lifting. Let us put the pressure on them. So that estate sale company has been on our television show at least once, maybe twice. They've been on this panel before. We send them referrals. Let us ask them. Leverage. We're major leverage. And I'm out there meeting other estate sale people all the time. Let me be the pushy one. Let's see if they tell me no.
Because of what happened, we used to be number one. Wednesday, we became the people to move. And we had been working on this for a year. And all at once, we became overwhelmed. And I would tell everybody in this room, talk to Katherine and Randy, find out about your house, talk to Danette and Samantha. Just do it. At least they'll give you a timeline. At least they will guide you in a direction that you need to take, because if you haven't started, we started and we're overwhelmed. If you haven't started, just imagine what you're going to feel like.
When do you have the estate sale? Before the house is sold or during?
Great question. So I'll tell you how we do it. We might not do it the same way you guys do it. We're looking at it from your personal perspective. We want our clients to be healthy and happy and not stressed as much as possible making the move. So we're looking at it around what's best for you. That's why you don't want to schedule things around what's best for the estate sale company or whatever. You know what I mean? Because it's about how does it all work? How do we blend it all together? So how we do most of them, it depends, because everything could be different, just depends on your situation. But most people, we will help them do the downsizing process, which might be 80, 120 hours, just depending. It could be over the course of a month. It can really vary, but that's just kind of an example. We help you get moved, unpacked, resettled. Occasionally there's stuff that goes back and forth, like I decided I don't want this, but I do want that, and we get that moved, get you all settled, and then we've either taken photos while your house looked perfect, or we've decided to wait until a certain point, so we're also thinking about when do we want to take the photos. And most of the time, we're putting the house on the market right after the move gets done. The estate sale is scheduled because that is one of the trickier parts. That's a really hard job, and there's a lot involved in that. And so a lot is kind of designed around when that can be. But we'll put the house on the market. We usually have it under contract, and the estate sale happens. The buyer comes to the estate sale, buys stuff. Those items can stay in the house. That's really handy. It's also really good for negotiating, because when they're there buying all your stuff, guess what we know when they ask for repairs? They're buying that house no matter what you say. They've already bought the furniture and the freezer, and so that's kind of interesting information for us to have. And we're paying attention to everything that's going on all the way around. But usually the estate sale gets done on a Saturday, and we're closing Tuesday or Wednesday. We don't close on Monday because we want the estate sale company to have time to get everything out and leave the property broom swept. One of our estate sale companies that they work with, their idea of broom swept is they have totally cleaned the whole house. It's unbelievable. But that's what we're looking for. We're hoping that they leave it nice, and we're usually closing on Wednesday. There's other times where we might opt to put the house on the market right before the estate sale. And so there's different options, and sometimes it's put on after the estate sale. How do you do it in Kansas City?
It happens kind of all different ways, just like Katherine. We had one in particular, though, where I really didn't know what to expect, and they literally had the house looking like a garage sale. And so we were still showing the house during that time, and it just didn't go super well because it looked like a garage sale inside the house. But I'm telling you, at the moment it was done, that Monday night, the buyer walked in the house, they toured the house, they put an offer in Monday night, and it sold quickly. So I think it just like she's talking about, we see all different ways that things get done. I also, and I don't know, Katherine, I'm not fine. I'm starting to hear more and more that these estate liquidators are coming in and just giving just a flat amount for the whole house because of COVID. And I don't know if you guys are experiencing that down here at all, But we're hearing all kinds of different things that can be done, and I know Katherine will have all the right contacts if that's how you want to go with it. But I do know we're starting to see more and more of that too. So,
on the situation Willie was talking about, it was a younger couple, and they chose their own estate person who chose their own timing, but the couple needed for the house to go on the market, so it was on the market while the garage sale was happening, and we really didn't have any offers till the house got cleaned out. So work with Katherine. She will make it happen in the right time, because that wasn't the right time. And they were getting worried. No one's buying our house. Well, that whole weekend, people were tripping over all the items.
and she had a lot of antiques. And so what we were hearing over and over again was the house was dated. Well, the house wasn't at all dated. She had antique furniture, which dated the house. Interestingly enough, all of the antiques left, and the house went under contract. So it really is all about timing. And so, Katherine.
In terms of, in my area, in the DC area, most estate liquidators will, it's not a flat rate. It depends on how much they're able to sell, and then they will share a portion of that with you. And it can vary from one to the other, but that's how most of them in my area work.
In our area, it really has become more about buyouts, and a lot of my favorite estate liquidators have since retired because it just hasn't, people aren't buying some of the things that used to sell in estate sales.
Okay. So that's an idea too, that not only do you have competition on maybe the villas that you want or the type of place you want, but also there's competition for selling your stuff, and sometimes the market's really oversaturated with different things that you're hoping to sell. So Terry might have an option though for you on figuring out what some of your items are worth.
So you mentioned Katherine has a small army of people she does that help her, including a TV station. So here we are, Channel 8 PBS. I'm Terry Brooks. We were talking about how much is my stuff worth? What is that thing under my bed? And should I get it out and dust it off? And how do I find an appraiser? Well, we have a very fun event on July 23rd that's fashioned after one of our most popular television shows, the Antiques Appraisal Fair. So we have a Wichita version of that on July 23rd. It'll be from 9 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. And it's for a donation. You come in and bring your item, and we'll have 6 to 8 appraisers there all day long. And it's a very fun event. Last year we had over 300 people came with all of their items, from small little trinkets to, a wagon full of some big heavy statue or a nice piece of furniture. And we have jewelry experts, coin experts, furniture experts, art experts. All of those appraisers are there, and they can help you with an item that you might wonder, how much is my stuff worth? So that's July 23rd. We host it, and you can find out more about that if you just give me a call at the station. So KPTS or PBS Kansas, Channel 8, that's who you need to call, and I'll help you get your ticket to the event. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. It's a really fun thing to do, and they have some vendors there also. So that's how we've found some of our appraisers, is by attending their Antiques Appraisal Fair. So, and we called Galen recently because we needed ideas on appraisers for certain things. So we'll help you figure out that stuff. And really, the estate sale people, your estate sale people should be very concerned. If they're fiduciary and if they're doing a good job, they should be very concerned about not selling something or underpricing something, that they're pricing things correctly. In our market, we like to do the in-home estate sale as often as possible, just depending on the situation. So we still have that here, and they usually charge about 35%. But I say it really doesn't cost you anything, because the amount of work that they do is unbelievable, and they are marketing all the time. So they have cars upon cars upon cars that show up to come to your estate sale company that we think is right for them. And it's a very affordable process. And it's not money out of pocket. It's money that comes to you. So what are some other ways that people can liquidate things? Might be donations. And you mentioned Sotheby's and Heinemann. What was the other one that you mentioned? heritage. Okay.
One other thing that I've had just as an employee of a trust company is people say, well, I'd like to give it. I'll give you an example. I'd like to give this to Catholic Charities, but it's a piece of jewelry. What do I do? And so to Catherine's point, it's having an intermediary because Catholic Charities doesn't want to hold a bracelet or a ring. They want the funds to be able to turn it, and plus from a taxation standpoint, you're not having to pay the tax. You have it appraised. You've gifted it to Catholic Charities or another charity, but I would say a lot of times that's a way that we see things that you don't want anymore go to charities that you like. So when I think about disposition, a lot of times it's churches, it's philanthropic organizations around the community, PBS being one of them. But it's saying how can I take the things I have to accomplish another means.
Randy, can you backtrack on the slides to one? So, Gabe, real quick, because we're gonna wrap it up pretty quick. What are 5 essential items to create to protect yourself and your assets? So when you're going through your whole downsizing plan, if you don't get that basement cleaned out, if you don't get anything done, what are the 5 things you really must do to protect yourself? Because downsizing is about protecting your future self and putting yourself in a place that's going to be better for you. But there's other things that need to be considered, and they are.
From estate planning, you should always have a living will. A living will would be, what are your wishes upon the time that, are you going to take nutrition? Do you want nutrition and hydration? Do you want hydration only for pain management? So a living will is important. Overall will actually indicates where your items will go, or a pour over will. Sometimes people have a revocable trust. That would be item number 3. So depending on assets and what your wishes are, that would be item number 3. And the last 2 are really important for all of us. Anyone who's 18. I always say if you have a grandchild, if you have a child that's 18 years of age, every person should have a financial power of attorney, a durable financial power of attorney, as well as a durable healthcare power of attorney. And those are 2 very important things. I always say it this way: you can have an 18-year-old that goes on a vacation, and if they get hurt as a parent, you have no rights to make medical decisions for that child. So you want to make sure you have that for each other, for each one of your loved ones, and also a financial power of attorney. A question we get a lot is, what's the difference between a financial power of attorney and a trustee? A trustee takes over the day that you're not in charge of your assets. The financial power of attorney, it can act with you while you're living, but it's only while you're living. So I always say at the time of death, that power of attorney goes away. So some people say, well, I have nothing past that. Well, now you're going to die what's called intestate, and you don't want to do that. It's planning ahead to have those 5 essential estate planning documents.
Because a lot of times people think if they have a will that they're taken care of, and that is not true, because if you have a will, it goes into probate. I'm not an attorney, but I picked that up in a seminar. Okay. All right. Just go through the rest of the slides, Randy, if you could. We just have just a few more minutes. SMART goals. Okay, pop quiz. What's a SMART goal? A SMART goal. Okay, so have you heard of SMART goals before? I'm sure some of you had, but it's a good way to think about, do I have a good goal? So your goal might be to declutter, but how do you know if it's a SMART goal? How do you really make it a SMART goal? What's the acronym?
See if I remember this. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and
time-bound.
There you go. Time-bound. There.
Okay. So that's a pretty good way to explain it. So it's specific. So decluttering maybe isn't quite specific enough, because how do you know when you're done decluttering? You might know when you're done downsizing because you've moved, but you still might have more stuff to go through and declutter if you didn't get that part right. But so how do we make it very specific? How do we make it measurable? I think we're going to get a science answer, I think. Action-oriented, that you're taking action. What was the A word that you used? Achievable. So achievable. I say action-oriented, that you took action and did something. R, you said what for R?
Realistic.
Realistic. I used realistic. Yeah, so it's achievable, realistic. T, what do you say for T? Time bound. Time. It's tied to time, so you've set a goal for when it's going to happen. Scientists, Rob? Okay.
How about a living will or irrevocable trust? Irrevocable trust or living will for SMART goals.
Yes, that's a very good SMART goal. Great job. So meeting with an estate planning attorney, elder care attorney, financial advisor, getting some direction on how do we go about getting these 5 essential items so that we're protected. I was kind of surprised when you said someone 18 or older to have a irrevocable trust, or what did you say? Durable. Okay, so the power of attorney, so someone can make health decisions if you're incapacitated. So it's not a matter of, okay, great grandma, it's time, because really it's time for all of the adults to have that. Okay, Randy, next slide. Questions. We have, who has a copy of Mitzi's book, Design Smart? So I have an autographed copy here. Okay, so if you get one, maybe you could gift it to somebody else that could use it. I have an autographed book here, and you have, Galen, you have a $50 gift card. So she was doing it as a drawing, but what we're going to do instead is we're going to challenge you to ask some really great questions. And then we're going to give a couple of the best questions a gift. Who has a question? Let's stump this panel. She flew all the way in from Washington, D.C. They drove all the way from Kansas City. What kind of questions do we have about decluttering, downsizing, or any of these topics? Thank you, Galen. You have a question every time. I love it.
So what is the difference between the durable power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, and financial power of attorney?
Can you give us a short answer? Because we're talking about decluttering, downsizing, but we always like to go first circle on everything.
So there's a financial power of attorney for both your medical wishes, and then there's another power of attorney for your financial wishes. So sometimes you might have a child or a friend that's really good at what I'd say the heart stuff, which would be, when is it time on the medical side, and you might have someone who's really financially astute, which is financial, but you'll need both of those. Durable means it's in place today. So it's not, sometimes you hear about what's called a springing power of attorney. A springing power of attorney means that you may have to be diagnosed by 2 physicians. You want something that's in place. I always say today, that would be my preference. Different attorneys write different ways. I'm not an attorney, but I like it to be in place in case you need it immediately.
Very good.
So also in your power of attorney, if you own a home, it needs to be very clear in the power of attorney that they have the right to do the things with the home as well, with real estate in general.
And so a lot of times there might be a power of attorney that signs just maybe because it's even more convenient. So just depending on circumstances. So there can be power of attorneys for something very specific like that.
Wonder if your house sells before you have a place.
Hopefully you have a really good realtor that's going to make sure that's not a problem. And so that makes me kind of nervous because there's like 2,500 realtors here. There weren't a couple years ago, so how did all these people get trained and get experience? It's kind of like a new surgeon probably has to do a few surgeries to get like really good. How many realtors are in your area? 17,000. Is that too many? Way too many. Yikes. It's really easy to get a real estate license. How many of you have had a real estate license before? Not very many, a couple. Because it seems like 9 out of 10 people I meet tell me that they had a real estate license in the past or they're thinking about getting one. And I understand that in California, if you get pulled over for speeding, they don't ask for a driver's license, they ask for your real estate license. Ba-dum-bum. So I'm telling you, it's very important that you have a certified senior housing professional, a realtor that only specializes in helping seniors exit the real estate market and coordinate all of that. Because the average real estate agent is just trying to figure out how to do what? Sell the house. That, I'm telling you, that's all they can possibly handle. I recruited and trained realtors for years. You guys have recruited and trained realtors. She was the head of her realtor association in the Washington, D.C. area. And we've recruited hundreds and trained hundreds of agents. Oh my gosh, guess what I don't do anymore? None of that. Never, ever, ever. Oh boy.
I just wanted to address your question. I don't know what the market's like here in Kansas, but in the DC area, it is on fire, and buyers are desperate for inventory because there's no houses to buy. So in my area, if you sell your house before you know where you're going, it's quite often easy to negotiate a delayed settlement, and on top of that, a post-settlement occupancy period of up to 60 days, and they will not charge you because the buyers are so desperate to get that home. So if you have someone like Katherine to help you, she'll figure all that out for you.
So I always love that when the sellers have a few days to move out, or maybe they can rent back, but sometimes that doesn't happen in our market. In our market, we like to have maybe 48 hours for the seller to get out. There's a lot of reasons for that. We should do a whole thing just on real estate. But there are some buyers that, I bought that house, I want that key. They want the house right then and there. We're going to know all of that in advance. It's all going to be very carefully planned. But there's going to be a plan. You're going to know where you're moving beforehand. Or if you've absolutely decided not to do that, you've done it on purpose. We helped some seniors recently sell a home. They had a beautiful Class A motorhome, and they were going to live in their motorhome in Texas while they shopped for a home in Texas. Not owning a home was going to give them a negotiating advantage on buying a home in Texas because their home was already sold. And they were very excited about this, and it's working out very well. But we always have a plan. If you're shopping for a house on your own, guess what you don't know? What we know. So you only see what's out on the internet. We're talking to people all the time that have homes to sell or have villas to rent. We have our secret favorite places that we do not talk about because I'm saving them for you guys. Okay, so call us and we'll help you figure out what your options are. Does that answer your question? Okay. So don't think what's on the market is what's on the market for you because we might have other thoughts.
Okay, I either misunderstood or I'm a little confused because we talked about the durable power of attorney for financial and for health, and you'd said now you need this kind because the other kind when they die, that's it doesn't continue.
Right. So power of attorney is only good until the person passes away, and then the person that had power of attorney no longer has authority. There has to be some other way for things to get done.
But if it's a financial power of attorney, they don't continue on with the financial?
That would be something else. So executor or trustee, because the power of attorney is only good until the person dies. And so that can cause a lot of complications with things when people think they have a power of attorney and it's all settled and somebody's in the hospital or something happens.
If you trust that person you named as a power of attorney, you might want to have them as the executor.
Maybe. So if you trust the person that you selected to have a power of attorney, maybe you also select them to be your trustee or your executor. Maybe. It depends. So all of these things, the answer is it depends. I should have made a slide that says it depends. It depends. So you want to have professionals to help guide you through all of these things because it really does all depend. And they went to law school to learn that stuff. So we're not expected to know all of it. If we have an awareness that there's 5 essential things of some kind to talk about and that it's important that we do that because otherwise something terrible could happen, that is maybe good enough, and then we can get connected to some of those people. They are competing for these prizes. Sunny.
Hi. Our coming here today together was our step number 1. So would my step number 2 be the Downsizer Club, small group?
It can be for some people. It would be, Downsizers Club would be awesome for people that like the idea of taking a course and going through step by step. And I think it could be a very enjoyable process with a group of people that are going through the same things that you are. So I think Downsizers Club could be that thing, and I would recommend it. But there are people that are downsizing all the time using these services that haven't gone through a course, but we're helping them because we do it every day. You know, we do it through in-home consultations. But I think the course could be a very fun way, and that way you're making sure that you're checking all the boxes and doing everything. I think there's a cost. It's $200 lifetime membership, and you will get way more than $200 back as you utilize some of the services. You're going to get a lot of free in-home consultations. The reason why it's $200 is because we're renting the space, we're printing materials, there's a lot of expenses, and we're charging far less than what's costing us to do it. Mostly we're charging because we want to make sure that the people that sign up for it are serious, because it's not a social thing, it's a learning and taking action thing. Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. She gets the book, Design Smart, so I'll be bringing it to her.
Okay, I just have a question because you hear so many different things. Should you be, when you're ready to sell your house, should you sell it with your stuff in it or your stuff out of it?
Good question. Should you sell your house with your stuff in it or not in it? What? It depends. Yay! But you're not an attendee, you're an expert on the panel, so we're going to give the $50 gift card. What do you think? I think that was a good question. Oh, I'll be right to you. Okay, $50 gift card, that's a great question. It depends. We'll give her more than, the school teachers up here want to give more of an answer.
So it really can make a difference on what you're doing. Are you moving first or are you selling first? If our clients financially can, we think it's best and less stress to move first. Find where you're going, take what you want, decide, do I want more? Do I want to bring some back? You know, it really depends on your situation. I hate to say, but it does depend on each individual. But if you can move first, that's great. If you need to have the funds from this house to close on, you know, whatever, if the community has a payment or something, then maybe you don't get rid of the things because you're still living there. But there are other financial options that Katherine can talk to you about too, about whether you move first or what. So
it also depends on the size of your furniture. Because people look at your home and say, wow, if they can't see themselves in your home, they're not going to buy your home. And so that's another thing where it depends. I mean, if you are a minimalist and you don't have a lot of stuff and your furniture, you don't have like the biggest bedroom set, and your room, you actually have a 17 by 15 master bedroom and it's completely full, and so it looks small to that person, then by all means I think you would want to get rid of as much out as you can. But here's the great thing, you have an expert right in this room that can guide you in your home. And that's the key. I mean, we're experts in our areas, and we sit down. In fact, in Kansas City, there are only 2 certified senior housing professionals in all of Kansas City, my wife and I, and one other, out of 17,000 realtors. Okay? I know you've got, or is it just you here? They're the only ones here. And Jan's the only one in the entire. So what I would tell you is find that expert. You happen to have one right here that can guide you on what's best for you.
So that's how rare it is. So 1 out of 17,000 realtors, and she was in charge of her whole board of realtors last year. She was the president. It's a very rare thing that we're doing, and we're not doing it, believe me, we're not doing it to get rich. This is something that we're doing because we love what we do and we're making a difference. I was a candy striper in 7th and 8th grade, and I love that my life has come full circle, and this is what I like doing. This is what I spend my time doing. And I really didn't mean to have you guys pitching me because we do say that we don't sell, but we do want you to know what we do, and we do want you to know how rare it is. Next month, we're talking about Sunny Days Are Here Again. So I'm kind of like doing whimsical, silly names this year. I don't know why, but Sunny Days Are Here Again. We're actually going to talk about what to do with your time. Not downsizing, something fun. So we're going to talk about caregiving and how to be a wife or a husband or a mother or a daughter again, how you can get some relief. If you're bored, and I know there's a lot of boredom going around, what you can do to lift your spirits and keep yourself busy. Don't forget the pole walkers are going to be walking out in the beautiful gardens and see the tulips. And last question.
Well, she had a question too, but the reason I came was because of another D word, denagging, and my hat tells it all.
Good job. His hat says mental. Women can be very effective getting the husband. So we find a lot of times it's the woman that wants to do downsizing and the husband kind of reluctantly goes along until he's on board. Sometimes it's the husband that wants to do it, and usually that tends to be because there's cognitive or physical decline for the wife, and he's decided that he needs to do it for her and he wants to do it for her. Who was the other one that had a question? Deborah.
The question I had is that I'm looking at downsizing, but I'm looking at doing it myself or having an estate sale. And so what I'm hearing here is there such a thing as a living estate sale that you can do that?
Okay. Yes. All the estate sales we do pretty much, they're a living estate sale. Okay. You got to call us, okay? Though they want to do it with the mom still in the house. Let us help you make these things. We cover Hutch too. Okay, some of our sponsors are in Hutchinson. So we cover all of these areas. You probably cannot live in the house, although we have done it a few times. We know how to do things, and we know how to negotiate things. That's what we do for a living. We negotiate. So we spend time negotiating with these estate sale companies to get things done. But most of the time, we're moving seniors out of the chaos, and we don't put the house on the market till after they've moved, and we don't do an estate sale until after they've moved. Because the estate sale people, they need 24-hour access to the house for a couple of weeks at least. It's a tough job.
I have a question about the downsizing club. I know a lot of this as it's mental, you know.
It's all mental. It looks like work, physical labor, and it is, but it's 100% mental.
So are you going to have people helping with the mental side of it?
Yes. So we're a PhD-led program. And if you peek in this, you're going to see it's not all to-do list, okay? We're going to work on your thinking. We're going to help you through that. And for those of you that want to do your move yourself, this will help you do it. We can also do free consults, so don't feel like you have to take a course because we can still help you do it yourself. And frankly, we don't have enough bandwidth to help everybody. If everybody decided to move at one time, we'd be in big trouble. Okay, so the more people that can do more of it themselves, the better. This is how you can get a lot done yourself and keep your price, your bill down.
We had a question on here.
A question on our live stream.
Website, yes. How do you watch a recording of this session to review it?
On our website, empoweredsenior.org, it says, has seen on PBS Kansas. You can click there to see any of our TV shows. We also have a tab called Resources, and there's articles written with videos embedded, and we are going to add a tab that says Videos so you can find it a little easier and watch all the videos because we do try to record everything. This is awesome. We just ask you to ask questions, and you ask questions.
That $200 membership, is that per family or a piece if you're married?
We want to know how many people, we do a DNA test, figure out how many people we could charge. No, it's per household.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll give you each a book because you probably have different opinions. So we're going to give you your own paper.
I want to know if I won that $50.
We already handed it out, but if you ask and you receive, maybe she's got something else in mind for you. All right.
Short question, what time is the program? But then I have something else. What time is what program? Your thing on Tuesdays, is it morning?
Oh, Tuesdays, I made my life a little easier, and I did 2 p.m. So the first Tuesday of every month, 2 p.m. to 3:30.
The other thing I wanted to say, when I've gone to a home and looked at it, if the furniture is so opposite of what mine is, I can't even fantasize myself in there. And in our case, we've got a conglomeration. I think we'll have to get out, and I think there's something to what's staging. I think we'd probably want to have our house staged.
Okay, so sometimes it's hard to see yourself living in a house when a house is so personalized. Yes, that can be true. But it really depends, so let us look and let us give you our opinion. And I don't know what you guys think about staging, but I'm just going to say what I think. You're shaking your head. I'm glad to see that. We don't need to stage. In Washington, D.C., apparently they do. But our market's so hot, you don't have to do a dang thing.
From personal experience that staging a home definitely sells it faster and for more money in my market anyway. And it's just a business decision I made. I stage every one of my listings, whether or not it's occupied. If it's vacant, we'll bring in furniture and stage it. If it's occupied, we'll use what you have. And with your permission, the stager may rearrange things, may move a few things out into storage, just to maximize the appearance and make it really pop. Every market's different, though.
So our market, we sell as is, period, end of story. If your home is perfect, except you have a ceiling stain, we might talk about how to fix that. If you've got one or two things, we might talk about that. But honestly, for most everybody, we sell as is. And right now, we just closed on a house and they got $60,000 over asking price. Now the trick with that sounds tricky, but the trick was getting it appraised, and so that's a whole nother issue, and then you've got to have somebody really good.
I didn't want to make it sound like I require all my clients to stage, because like Katherine, there are situations where it's better to sell the house as is. Again, just like her, we put one on the market. We didn't even put it on the market. We marketed it to our agent network, and we had gotten costs on what it would cost to repair it and how much more we could sell it for if we repaired it. The market is so crazy, we got a very aspirational price for it without touching it, so they were thrilled.
Awesome. Mary Ann?
Yeah, either way. I have a question that's probably for another seminar, because I am so frustrated. I know the market pretty well of what's out there for seniors, and I mean, I could tell a lot of things, but it's so frustrating because some, you know, they want to deposit, others, well, it's based on your income. I love it when they're all based on like 30% of your total income, but there's so few of those. And there's so many beautiful things for the poor. You know, if you're under 32,000, but if you're over 32 but not real high, you're priced out. So that is so frustrating to me and very upsetting.
Mary, that is a perfect question for this. So she said, she's commenting that if you're very poor, sometimes there's a lot more options than if you're not poor. Again, that's something to talk to us about, because we have ideas on where you can live that might be good, that might not be obvious to the general public. And the places where their income has to be so limited, like they built a new one by Central Community Church, they had like 1 applicant or 90 applicants for every 1 opening. You've got to have professionals helping you. It's very, very important. This isn't stuff to do on your own. And the last tip that I'm going to say is that if your kids want to help you do a garage sale, please say no. Say no. We just had a lady that she sold her whole house full of stuff. Her kids sold at a garage sale for $500. They rented a dumpster for $400. She got $100 for everything. Okay, and our clients are getting $12,000, $35,000, $6,000. So don't give your stuff away unless it's really important while you're letting someone have something. But don't sell things to your neighbors. Keep your stuff intact. Sell it together. It makes everything worth more. And you don't do a garage sale. And you don't do your own estate sale. If you do your own estate sale, it's a garage sale. You can call it an estate sale, but you haven't been marketing and paying for advertising for years and have thousands of followers. So it's not an estate sale, it's a garage sale. Doesn't matter how pretty you make it or if you move it indoors, it is a garage sale.